We are going live a little bit early because the daggum game's over. All right, it's 41-21, 4-10 on the left in the game as I'm looking at it right now. We will get to this game. We will get to, of course, the bananas events that unfolded at Cam Scatterboo, Puke and Rally, Hero Ball, and so much more. Double overtime thriller, Texas advancing in the Peach Bowl. But, Danny, I think I want to start with the Buckeyes here. Or how about this? Ohio State or Oregon, which one is more remarkable or surprising to you?
You said Ohio State or Oregon, like the upside or the downside?
Yeah. Which part of this were you like
Oregon?
Stunned by Oregon? Yeah, because
Oregon easy. Yeah, because
we thought
Ohio
that Oregon
State
would match this, right?
Yeah,
we thought
absolutely.
that this could be a back and forth where Ohio State is this good. You just thought that Oregon would be able to trade paint with it.
No doubt. That was the biggest surprise of the night, was the complete domination by Ohio State. We knew we could get that version. I mean, I think I've been on record saying if we get this Ohio State team that we got against Tennessee, they're going to waltz the way to a national championship. And sure enough, we got that version again, but I thought they would be tested. Shoot, I thought Oregon would potentially win the game. So I did not see this game coming, and probably the lines of scrimmage are the biggest shock. I mean, I know there was a lot of plays and there was a lot of offense, but the defense for Ohio State maybe was just as impressive of their complete domination. Dylan Gabriel, that's how you make quarterbacks look average, is you constantly harass them all night long. He never looked comfortable. I don't know how many sacks they're up to now, but
1,000.
Yeah, seriously, it feels like it. I mean, he has not had time all day long. Looks like nobody's running open. It was just an absolute domination by Ohio State.
I mean, Oregon was top 10 in the country in like coming into this game in tackles for loss allowed. Ohio State's got 13 or 14 already. Like they might finish 15, 16. This is like a dominant performance by a Buckeye D line that's like often hyped, but not always like showing up on the field. I think if you're an opponent, if you're Texas, if you're Penn State, if you're Notre Dame, or if you're Georgia, like, you know, the teams left in this thing, that's kind of an oh shit moment. Because like Oregon's offensive line, I think, is every bit as good as the rest of the teams left in this tournament, and they abused them tonight. Like that's kind of a whoa right there. Like Tennessee's not great. Oregon, I do think, is pretty damn good up front, and they smoked them. Like they showed up again. And if you look at the Buckeye fans in our chat and on Bucknuts, what's their concern? It's like, yeah, these guys are always so hyped. Okay, Larry Johnson's group's all, but they don't always play up to that. They did for the second week in a row. Like this is some pretty scary stuff if they're going to do that.
Can I answer Dabby real quick? Because he said,
I was going to. Yeah.
He said, as a QB, is this on Gabriel? No. I mean, I saw Tom Brady now. Tom Brady, when he was down 28-3, came all the way back and won the game. But if you remember that first half, he looked awful. He was getting hit a bunch, and he just kind of turned it on. That was, I don't know what else. I mean, I think Dylan Gabriel held on to the ball a long time. There were a lot of times I'm like, just throw it away. But there also were not a lot of guys running open out there. And he was seeing traffic in front of his face. You know, it's what happens. You get blurred vision. You don't you get away from your progressions. You don't hit guys. It was not his best game, but that was not on him by any means.
And there were two things at play here. Like first, we mentioned it, the pressure. Ohio State's defensive line in the first game didn't do a damn thing. I think they finished, I tweeted it earlier, but I think they finished with 2 tackles for loss in the entire game. They were pretty much manhandled that night for the most part. Tonight, with 2 minutes still left in the game, they've got 8 sacks and 13 tackles for loss. So with Dylan Gabriel, part of it was pressure, particularly from the interior. Tyleik Williams was getting a ton. And so, like, he was flustered. He was kind of having to move off his spot. But also, like, I can't tell on the TV feed because you don't see the secondary from the TV feed. You'll have to wait till afterwards when the 22's up. But whatever the hell Ohio State was doing coverage-wise in the first half, Oregon had no idea it was coming. Gabriel was, you could tell just by looking at him in the pocket, he had no idea what he was looking at. He was seeing he was seeing the opposite of whatever he was expecting. He would look for what he thought was there, and then it would be something completely different. And you could tell that was the case because in the second half, it's looked a lot different, even though they still haven't been that effective. He at least doesn't look completely confused. So they clearly went in there, they adjusted and blah, blah, blah. But so Ohio State, I mean, deserves a ton of credit, not just for the way the players are playing, But for whatever the hell they did schematically, which I do not know yet, that confused the ever-living hell out of the Ducks for the first 30 minutes of that game.
I'm glad you mentioned the whole point about what you can see on the TV screen. The one thing I saw on the TV screen in the first half was like 11 guys in frame. I thought instead of back, like, remember, Oregon kind of toasted these guys in Eugene. And we were kind of wondering, like, would they play off more? Would they play more too high and let their D-line eat and be a little more conservative? In the first half, this looked like a very Oklahoma State, Jim Knowles type of game. I don't know what kind of coverage stuff they decided to play there, but and just from watching it live, that's why we can go back and watch.
The linebackers were great, like closing speed, like held their ground, weren't caught out of position a lot, for sure.
They were clogging a lot of the stuff that Gabriel wants to throw, but by like he had to go over the top, and they didn't have the receiver got hurt in warmups. The
Evan Stewart.
Yeah, they didn't have Evan Stewart, I guess, which was insane to get hurt in warmups, but it does happen. Like that was ballsy by Ohio State to double down on their aggressive approach. I thought they might play more like two shell stuff, see if the front could eat, and the front did eat, but they had everybody really close to the line of scrimmage. And I think it's an important point too. I mean, not just because I'm saying it. I'm not trying to be a dick here, but like I remember this. Ohio State defensively, like their numbers are way better since the Oregon game. But who they really played since the Oregon game, like this is sort of why the test mattered. Mm-hmm. And tonight it showed up that the improvements are real against a good opponent too.
How does this fit into the Oregon narrative? I talked about them earlier this year. I mean, kind of a little bit of a lovable loser, like somebody who is on the other side of Cam Newton, on the other side of the juggernaut Ohio State team that caught fire with Cardale. You see them rise up in these moments, but then fall short against Washington. This kind of fits, like just toast everybody through the season. And then you show up in this spot and just before you know it, bam, you're down 17-0, trying to hold on to things and climb out of a hole.
Do they kind of remind me of Clemson before Clemson went on their run?
Like Clemson?
They're close. Yeah, but like those games were different. Like those games, they felt like they should have won. I just feel like they're close. I mean, it's hard. Yeah. It's really hard to win a national championship. And I know they want to get it before Phil Knight, passes away. And that's one of the biggest reasons they've got this push and they have so much money invested in them. I feel like they played a really good team, that they already beat once and they, you got to beat them twice. And it was really hard. I don't think it's an indictment on is Oregon not good or they fraudulent. I just think they ran into a buzzsaw. And shoot, we'll see if Texas is going to run into that same buzzsaw. That game's going to be fun, but that just happens. I feel like they're close. They're just not ready yet. They're just not there yet.
I think all of our bye teams had slow starts. The difference is not all of our bye teams were playing Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Right. I don't think there's a college football team on the planet that beats Ohio State if Ohio State plays like it did tonight.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Jeremiah Smith with the 45-yard touchdown on the third play of the game. And it's just like, I mean, it was a short little pass. Then he just runs through your entire defense because he's Jeremiah Smith. And then he's mossing you on other plays down the field. Just like these are a bunch of 5'9" corners trying to cover Jeremiah Smith. It went about as well as you would expect it to. But more than anything for Oregon, like they have been great all year long. But if we've seen them in the big games against Ohio State, against Penn State, against Boise State, their defense was not fantastic. I talked about it last night when we were talking about Boise State. Oregon's defense was not even in the top 50 in defensive rushing success rate. So like we talked about how Ashton Genty did really well against Oregon earlier this year. Well, Oregon's defense against the run wasn't great all year. So Ohio State completely tore them apart through the air, which then allowed them to open things up on the ground and just completely gash them. That has been somewhat of a problem for the Ducks all year. They have not been the elite defense that Ohio State was or that Penn State was. They were just a good defense with a great offense. And tonight, a great offense tore their defense apart.
I kind of felt like tonight was less about scheme for Ohio State. Maybe they were doing some influence stuff that I didn't pick up on, but like against Tennessee, it was very clear like they had something that was going to scheme guys like wide open. And tonight, Ohio State's receivers just won. And on the one ball down the seam, I mean, that's just a great throw by Will Howard.
Mm-hmm. The Ibuka touchdown. Oh my God.
It's not that open. I mean, like that's a big boy throw right there. Like that was like, oh God. Okay. I don't know if Danny can talk about throwing that ball, but like that shit's hard.
He was phenomenal. I was about to say, when you're the quarterback at Ohio State, you're held to a standard that's probably just unachievable. Will Howard had a really good season. Like, and he's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm still here. Like, yes, we had this $20 million roster, but don't forget about me, who can still sling the rock and make all those throws. And I think it's because, we talked about it. You lose to Michigan, you throw 2 picks. It's like, and there were so many games that he didn't have to do much. I mean, but look at what he did against Oregon. He played great against Oregon. It was just the 1 second short. He played awesome all season long. I think he had, was he second in the country with 73%? I think he had 7 games where he's 80% passing, including the game against Oregon the first time around. I mean, he's been awesome this year, but it's like, well, is he CJ Stroud? Is he Justin Fields? And yeah, he's been pretty much all of them. And he might be able to do something that those guys couldn't do. It's just, you get held to this bar that is unobtainable, but he's starting to showcase that he is just as good as anybody in the country. And it's been pretty incredible to watch.
You know what else about Howard?
What?
He had how many design rushes tonight?
None. This damn game script killed my bet.
Boys, I'm saying, like, those legs are fresh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't need him at all.
Like, if you're Texas, you better still rep that. Like,
yeah. You don't think they're not going to?
Of course they will, but I'm saying, like, they have to continue to do that,
Chip Kelly's had a nice little revenge tour in this college football playoff. Like, that's you were right. It's not about scheme necessarily, but there were some conscious decisions that were made in terms of the way we're going to handle our business. Was losing to Michigan the best thing that could have happened to Ohio State's national title hopes? Maybe.
In that it made them like say, hey, we are going to become a passing team.
Yeah. Like, maybe we should be a Madden team. Like, let's go and use our advantage that we have on the perimeter against everybody in America. So
I think it also took the pressure off of them. Like, they were supposed to be this perfect team. That's $20 million roster, and you can't lose to Michigan. And then they lost, and they feel like, so we can still win the Natty. Like, we can still go do it. And then they kind of got pissed off, and maybe they actually like playing for Ryan Day, and they're like, hey, our coach is great. We just let him down. And we've talked about all those reasons. They didn't have a great game plan, like all of that. But, man, did they come together. And it's all about peaking at the right time. And they are peaking big time.
Like, yeah. Listen, Ryan Day does not deserve credit for losing to Michigan. But Ryan Day deserves a lot of credit for how this team has handled losing to Michigan, because there were 2 ways this could have gone. Like, all the talk about the program was, oh my God, Ryan Day's going to get fired. This team's going to quit, blah, blah, blah. Because we were talking about it because it was a legitimate possibility. We did not know what they were going to look like when they came out to play Tennessee last week. Then there was the other possibility we discussed is like, or they rally behind it, they unify, they lock in, and they just come out and tear people apart. And for 8 quarters, they have been a perfect football team for the most part. They've had a couple mistakes, but by and large, they have been as close to 100% as they can be. And when they are at 100%, oh my God. Because even the offensive line, which I've been bagging on for a month and a half now, looked great last week. It looked great again tonight. They are like, this is a unit that has gelled. They have overcome the injuries. They are playing terrific football. They really do not have a weakness at the moment.
So this morning we played back some sound of Ryan Day talking about Oregon, and it was like a minute clip. And when we came back on, I was like, he sounds really comfortable and confident and laid back, which is not what has happened when he's talked about Michigan. It's just a Michigan thing for Ryan Day. I'm telling you, because at the Big Ten Media Days all season long, there was so much tension, and it was like, you got to beat Michigan. You got to beat Michigan.
So tight in July.
Yes, he was wound so tight, and I'm telling you, once that game is in the rear view, and you're like, whatever, we lost again. I get it. Like, it's going to be there again, but there is just, it's almost, and it's weird because it's almost like this weight has been lifted off his shoulders. Like, maybe he thought he didn't get fired. Like, you're okay. And then you win a playoff game and you blow them out. Now you've got 2 under your belt. They're gaining more confidence in playing. Like, Ryan Day is not as stressed because that game's further in the rear view. It's a weird dynamic, but I'm telling you, I think it's palpable when you listen to Ryan Day talk.